Thank you. Don't want to touch it. And the song speaks about having a dream, and we know how, as we approach a new year, where many of us have look for a new vision, a dream of something new, something possible. And before we get to that, though, because that would be jumping ahead, we're not there yet. We haven't finished the year. So what do we need to do to finish the year in order for us to clear the slate so that a new vision can manifest for us? That's what I wanted to chat with you today about. And many of you may be tired. I feel a little fatigued from the busyness of the season. Anyone share that? Probably those people, all those empty chairs would represent those people quite well, too. We decided to have one service today, and we're not full. So when we normally get 200 people on a Sunday and we have 190 chairs, I think it was a good call for those people who wanted who had enough Christmas, enough celebration to hang around the house. But there's a joke, actually, about a little boy who's trying to get his parents' attention during the holidays, during Christmas, and they seem to be too busy to talk to him, give him the time of day. So they say the Lord's Prayer together all the time, and when he gets to it, it's his turn to do it that particular night, and he says, Forgive us our Christmases and those who have Christmased against us." So if we are really to experience this awakening, this opening to the greater possibilities of a God-centered life, a life of possibility, a life of love and peace and joy and wholeness, we have to really be clear that there can be impediments to that, yes? There can be those things which arise to seem to block that experience. And unless we deal with those things, it doesn't matter how fervently we pray or how deeply and profoundly and sacredly we believe in a higher power. If those false beliefs, if those obstacles to the awareness of this truth take the place of the faith that we seek to have and know. So I want to talk to you today about letting go. And we'll continue this on Thursday night for our burning bowl ceremony in more of a ritualized way. But in terms of conversation today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the choices we have when things go wrong, when we make mistakes. Because we all make mistakes, To err is human, as this saying goes. So this is from the Buddha. I want to begin with that. The Buddha once asked a student, "If a person is struck by an arrow, is it painful?" The student replied, "Probably, duh, but then it is." The Buddha then asked this important question, "If a person is struck by a second arrow, is that even more painful?" And the student again replied, "It is." The Buddha then explained, "In life, you cannot always control the first arrow. However, the second arrow is our reaction to the first. This second arrow is optional." And the second arrow is what we do to ourselves in reaction to the initial mistake. I speak to you of self-blame, beating ourselves up, shaming ourselves, guilting ourselves. Anyone familiar with any of these things? Yeah. And speaking about the Q process, we all have a shadow belief, and sometimes it's not so much in the shadow, it can be right out in front. And it's some version of, I'm not good enough, I'm bad, I'm not lovable, I never get it right. And this lives in the basement, of our consciousness, and seems to, for many of us, have a lifelong lease. It's not paying any rent. In fact, it continually charges us and takes from us until we bring it out of the basement, we bring it into the light of truth, the light of grace, the light of forgiveness, and so forth. And so our experience with this is that, yeah, we're going to make mistakes. We all do. And it's important for us to learn from our mistakes. This is not about saying that, you make a mistake and you go, oh, well, everyone's perfect, and just sort of go into a state of denial, or you pass it off. There's always follow-up work to do. Maybe there's amends to be made. There's learning to be gained from making mistakes. And all of that is constructive, yeah? I'm talking about the destructive reactions to mistakes that we make. And that is where it actually is counterproductive to us being the people that we've come here to be God's children in expression, yeah? That potential which we have, the potential for us to be more loving, to be more an expression of peace and joy and wholeness, is sabotaged by what is only in our minds. Does not come from the truth. It does not come from God. And that is that we need to keep ourselves down. And unless we learn this, then all of our intentions to not repeat those mistakes will be confounded. Because the more guilty and shame we feel for ourselves, the more likely we will continue to act out from, I'm no good, I'm bad, I'm unlivable. Yeah? So we need to work at the level of where we have got it wrong and bring that into the light of truth. And it's in bringing into the light of truth, then we're freed to be the people that God created. Yeah? So it's a nuanced teaching, because some people take it's black or white. Oh, I've made a mistake, and I'm supposed to just pass it off and just say, it's no big deal. There's a difference between taking accountability and taking responsibility and taking on blame. Can we hear that? We're talking on blame and shame, the blame-shame game. Yeah? It goes all the way back to the original story. Eve said, no, the serpent beguiled me, and the shame and the game, the shame and the blame, it's something we all do. But we have a choice. That's the second arrow. That's the one of choice. Another important part of this is that unless we have mercy for ourselves, we cannot forgive other people. If you have a hard time forgiving other people, very likely you have a hard time forgiving yourself, yeah? Because what we cannot see for ourselves, we will project upon others. Course in Miracles says, the unforgiven have no mercy to bestow upon another. The unforgiven have no mercy to bestow upon another. That is why your sole responsibility must be to take forgiveness for yourself, to receive the forgiveness for yourself. The miracle that you receive, you give. The miracle of forgiveness that you receive, you can give. The miracle of forgiveness that you do not give yourself, then you will offer what? Condemnation, judgment. Yeah? We know this. This is going to be a quiet service, I have a feeling. So not blaming and shaming ourselves has a lot to do with not dwelling on the past as well. You can dwell on the past to the extent that we can learn from it, that we can make amends, to do whatever we need to do to make right what was wrong. But then it's time to bring our attention to what's next, to the life that's in front of us, to the next step for us. Because if my focus is still in the past, if I'm still rehashing that story, if I'm still rehashing that, I have robbing myself of the energy, of the creative energy that I need to bring forth in this life to do the good that I'm here to do, to bring this consciousness of love and peace and joy into the world. Whereas in the past, maybe I didn't do that. And now, for me to make that a new reality, I have to let go of those mistakes, yeah? I have to let go of them. I have to move on. God knows I've made my mistakes. Denise is here to verify them. I invested a considerable amount of money a number of years ago, and I lost it all. And we don't have a lot of money. And I I bet on something that I thought was a sure thing, and it was not. And I lived with a lot of shame for a long time with that. And I realized that I had to finally let it go because, there's no future in yesterday. There's no prosperity in guilt. There's no new heaven when we're stuck in self-incrimination. There is none. The time comes. We have to move on. Life does not go backward nor tarry with yesterday, as Gibran said. The one story that I bring up more often than any other, is the one that I think is most moving to me. And if you're looking for truthful or biblical or Christian validation for forgiveness, the story of the woman who's caught in adultery is the one that speaks so powerfully, where, the story that this woman is brought into the town square and all these men or women are gathered around her, and she's accused of being an adulteress, and the punishment, according to the law, is that she be stoned to death. And Jesus happens upon the scene, and they tell him what's going on, and he says, "Those of you who be without sin, those of you who have not made a mistake, go ahead, cast the first stone." And it says the men slowly began to leave, and the oldest went first. And then he gets down on the ground and writes something in the soil, which we don't know what he says, but then he turns to her and he says, "Look around, who here condemns you?" And by then everyone had left. And she says, "No one does, sir." And he says, "Neither do I condemn thee. Go forth." If the Christ can forgive, who are we to hold on to this condemnation? Who are we? What arrogance would it be for us to decide that we should hold on to this shame and this guilt and this blame, when from the highest perspective, there's no cause for that. There's no justification for that. To do so only keeps us stuck and is assuredly going to have us repeating, because if we see ourselves as guilty and shameful, we will continue to act in ways that will bring upon more guilt and shame. Do we know this to be true? Yeah. So I have forgiven myself for some things, and some things are harder than others. I have a little tiny experience of forgiveness, letting go, on Thursday night at the first service. Things were not going well to start. He had a couple of microphone issues, and that's not huge. But then we get into the program, and I'm completely on script for the candlelight service, whereas normally I am pretty much off the cuff, spontaneous. But I'm on script for the candlelight service. We have lots of moving parts and lots of players, and everyone has got their part scripted. So I'm over here, and I'm reading the script, and I do page 2, and I flip over to page 3, and there is no page 3. And there's no page 4. The next page is page 5, and I'm reading, I'm not even aware that it's page 5. I'm looking and going, well, that's not right. But I think I started reading it anyway. And I had realized that page 3 and 4 were left on the copy machine by me. See, last minute I'd made a copy for somebody who needed it, and I left the originals, and on the machine. So I'm like, okay, well, I just had to go down and got it from Linda. Linda gave me, her copy of it and saved the day. And it was a little bumpy. But I stood here for a while, just really beating myself up, like, how stupid, how silly. Why couldn't... You know this one? Bam, 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 bam. Until I thought, gosh, if I'm doing this right now, where is my consciousness, yeah? What do I have to give if this is what I'm doing? I need to find a way to let this go. and come back to myself. I had to do a talk that evening. What was I going to do about it? I want to just tell you what a lousy, stupid human being that I am. I'm just no good. That's about what I had to offer from that perspective. I was so in the muck and the mire of blame, and I'm so stupid. I'm not good enough, and blah, blah, blah. So this is an old tape. The difference between last Thursday night and some time ago is I've worked with this so long that I can now, it's not just like an affirmation, like, okay, let this go. But now I really feel the vitality that must be restored, that I have to get a hold of my true self. Yeah? That there is no future in this. Nothing good can come from shame and blame. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have conscience, right? That's different. Conscience tells you, the difference between right and wrong and so forth. Conscience is good, but shame and blame, these are these low, 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 low vibrations, yeah? Which do bring you nothing but more suffering. And then you can only do that and share that with the world. So we're here to acknowledge our mistakes, make amends, correct whatever we can correct if it's possible, and then move on. And say, neither do I condemn thee. There is no condemnation unless we choose to hold on to it. And if other people want to hold on to it, that's for them to deal with. We have to forgive ourselves. The unforgiven have no mercy to bestow upon another. This is why your sole responsibility must be to receive forgiveness for yourself. The miracle that you receive, you can give. I want to end with a poem here from Antonio Machado. It's in Spanish. You don't mind, do you? It's been translated into English. Last night, as I was sleeping, I dreamt, marvelous error, that a spring was breaking out in my heart. And I said, along which secret aqueduct, O water, are you coming to me? Water of a new life that I have never drunk. Last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt, marvelous error, that I had a beehive here inside my heart. And the golden bees were making white combs and sweet honey from my old failures. Last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt, marvelous error, that a fiery sun was giving light inside my heart. It was fiery because I felt warmth as from a hearth, and sun because it gave light and brought tears to my eyes. Last night as I slept, I dreamt, marvelous error, that it was God I had here inside my heart. So I'd like you to do a little meditation, prayer with me to close the service. So would you be willing to give us just a little background, Woody? Thank you. So I just want you to take a deep breath with me and just let it out and find yourself in a place of balance and comfort, relaxation, and openness. Most importantly, openness. We've been talking about a subject that may have alternating experiences of letting go and grasping, of tension and release. I'd like you to breathe mindfully and openly as if you have complete intention now of opening the heart and freeing this heart and just letting it all go. And in this space, I would like you to think about something in your life that perhaps you still carry some regret about, and deeper than regret, maybe some guilt or some shame or those things we've talked about here today. Just allow that to bubble up into your mind and into your consciousness, situation. And it's not necessary for you to review the facts or the details or rehash the story. It's just that which is enough for you to realize that you still have some forgiveness to do. And now I would just invite you to put yourself in the place of this adulterous woman. Not that you are one, but just that you are one who is in the presence of this Jesus, this enlightened being, this one who speaks the truth, who sees you as you really are. And go ahead and tell this one, what is it that's still bothering you? Share the story and share the feelings. And if it's been difficult for you to let it go, say that too. And now, what does Jesus say to you? I invite you to receive the forgiveness that the love and the light of the Christ offers unconditionally, that sees you as you really are, as you were created to be in the innocence of God's love, as a holy child of God, that makes mistakes. This is the mark. And to receive the mercy of such love, of this unconditional forgiveness that frees your heart and frees your soul and frees your mind to live life anew, to step forward boldly and confidently and resolutely into the next experience of living without the weight of guilt or shame anymore. You are freed by the forgiving love of the Christ presence. This is the truth, the whole truth. This is the grace. This is your ticket to freedom. This is the blank slate upon which you can build a new life and create greater good in this life. And the same grace and mercy that you can offer others now, because your heart is clear. You have the capacity to give as you have received. This is the new heaven, the new earth made manifest in us. And for this we are deeply grateful. And we say, thank you, God. And so it is.